The backstory of the Pilgrims. In the early 17th century, England was a nation undergoing significant social, political, and religious upheaval. The Protestant Reformation had fractured the Christian Church, leading to a wide spectrum of beliefs and practices that often clashed violently with those of the established Church of England. Among the dissenters emerging were the Puritans, who sought to purify the Church from what they perceived as remnants of Catholicism. Life in England, a look at Nottinghamshire and Scrooby. In the heart of Nottinghamshire, in a small village known as Scrooby, a group of these dissenting Puritans congregated under the leadership of figures like William Bradford and John Robinson. Scrooby was a quiet agricultural community where life revolved around farming, but its residents found themselves at odds with the Anglican Church, which left them feeling spiritually suffocated. Their local parish church, St. Wilfrid's, was a reminder of the rigid hierarchical nature of the Anglican faith, which they deemed inadequate. In Scrooby, dissenters held clandestine meetings in private homes where they could freely express their convictions and worship without fear of persecution. But the spectre of repression loomed large as bishops and magistrates imposed severe penalties on anyone found to be defying church authority. Nearby regions, Nottinghamshire and Lincolnshire, the Pilgrims were not alone in their dissent. The surrounding regions, including Lincolnshire, also housed significant Puritan populations. Here, towns like Boston and Grantham became centers of reformative thought, providing a space for discussions about the role of faith and governance. The religious tensions in these areas echoed throughout the country, creating a fertile ground for the Pilgrims' aspirations for change, more personal faith, and community autonomy. As the 1620s approached, the pressure on dissenters intensified. The government ramped up its efforts to suppress Puritanism, leading many to consider emigration as a means of escape. Struggles in Holland, a journey for peace and identity. In search of religious freedom, many of the Pilgrims took the bold step of emigrating to Holland, seeking refuge in Amsterdam before moving to the city of Leiden. Initially, they encountered a measure of safety and tolerance amid the vibrant Dutch culture. However, economic hardships soon set in. The Pilgrims engaged in labor-intensive jobs such as cloth-making, yet struggled to maintain their livelihoods amid rising costs and competition. The allure of freedom was accompanied by fears of losing their English identity as their children adapted to Dutch customs. This prompted the Pilgrims to desire a space where they could preserve their culture and faith, a vision of a new society rooted in their beliefs. The decision to leave, a hopeful pursuit of freedom by the early 1620s, the dream of a new world became increasingly compelling. Reports of abundant land and resources sparked the imaginations of the Pilgrims. They envisioned a realm free from oppression, where they could create a community aligned with their values. In 1620, after years of preparation, they decided to embark on the historic journey across the Atlantic. They secured financial backing from a group of English investors known as the Merchant Adventurers, interested in what the new land might yield. Climbing aboard the Mayflower, the Pilgrims pooled their resources, fully aware of the gravity of their departure. Each passenger wrestled with a mix of hope and trepidation, leaving behind familiarity and tradition for a distant, uncertain future. A glimpse of life in Scrooby, community and culture. Before their departure, life in Scrooby was deeply intertwined. With community, faith and agriculture, families relied on farming, growing grains, vegetables and raising livestock. Education was valued, with many children learning to read and write, empowering them to engage with scripture and community teachings. Community gatherings were central to the Pilgrims' lives. Prayer meetings, shared meals, and celebrations fostered solidarity. The bonds formed during their time in Scrooby would prove invaluable as they prepared for the challenges ahead. The experience of travel, the Mayflower's voyage on. September 16, 1620, the Mayflower set sail. The vessel was not designed for the long voyage ahead, leading to cramped conditions for the passengers. As they faced storms, seasickness, and worries about provisions, the mood on board shifted between hope and anxiety. Yet the Pilgrims found solace in their faith and the shared purpose that had brought them together. As the ship traversed the turbulent waters, they recounted the rolling hills of Nottinghamshire and their cherished memories, bolstering their spirits. Their thoughts were anchored in hope as they looked toward the future, envisioning a sanctuary where liberty and faith could flourish. Arriving in the New World, a new beginning. After a grueling journey, the Mayflower finally reached the shores of what would become Plymouth, Massachusetts in November 1620. Faced with the challenge of establishing a new settlement, the Pilgrims were met with a harsh, unforgiving landscape. Reliant on their faith community and the lessons learned from their origins, they approached the daunting task before them with determination. Though they left behind their homes in England and the safety of Leiden, they carried with them the spirit of their forebears, an unwavering belief in the right to worship freely and create a society based on their ideals. It was this spirit that would guide them as they set out to build their new life, forging a legacy that would echo through history.